Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. Lord, I'm tired, I am so weak, I am a wall through the storm, through the night. Lead me on to your light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Lord, when my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my life seems to be passing on, oh Lord, hear my cry, Father, hear my call. Hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. At the river, Lord, I'm gonna stand. Guide my feet, hold tight to my trembling hand. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home.
Advertised as Denver's living room, Union Station, a public space funded by taxpayers' dollars, claims to be a place where all are welcome. However, Union Station is regulated by heavily armed security guards, contracted by RTD, to make sure the city's policies and guidelines are abided by. You better not fall asleep in Union Station. You better not hang out too long. You better not come and take advantage of the city or its facilities. You will be dealt with. RTD employs 600 armed security guards agency-wide to ensure that the safety and security of the people who rely on public transportation day in and day out are accommodated. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that all we're trying to do? In 2014, Hancock and Hickenlooper got the city booming, right? 2 years after Amendment 64 and Union Station was reopened. At the time, RTD only had 8 of its own cops. Transit police didn't even work overnight back then. Instead of building a transit police department from within the city government, they decided to outsource the liabilities of law enforcement to a private security company, one of the largest security companies on earth, Allied Universal Security Services. Fast forward to 2018. Gentrification has escalated around the city from a gradual erosion till a full-on avalanche of displacement. The camping ban was now 6 years old. The city's wealth gap was on full display, and a city so eager to graduate from its cowtown status and to bolster its pseudo-progressive facade began to resent the people in the streets.
I met Raverro when working for the community. We were doing the preparation for an arts action around the homeless crisis, and we were tasked with creating something artsy and interactive for youth and their families. I'd never met Raverro before, but we were locked together for the next 24 hours, running all over Denver, planning furiously, painting murals, and going to the hardware store back and forth, back and forth. I was struck by Raverro immediately. His smile, his quiet presence, his chuckle and his laugh, and his dedication to his friends. So the day of the event comes by, and I bring all of these costumes, ridiculous costumes, to wear to hang out with the kids. And to my surprise, because we had not planned this, Raverro showed up and was game to wear a matching ridiculous costume. I was so touched. I know he was not that kind of performer, yet he stepped beyond his comfort level, beyond his zone, to show up, to do something meaningful for someone else, to make the event truly meaningful. I know Raverro to be an amazing and talented artist. I know him to be good-natured. I know him to show up for the hard stuff because he believes in it. So, when I heard about the assault, I was furious. Why Raverro? He's so quiet, and he's shy, actually, and quite tall, and you often find him hanging out with his headphones on, listening to music, and scrunching up his shoulders just a little bit so as not to attract that much attention. And you hear about the brutalization of Black bodies by the cops on the news, but this was someone that I knew, that I was friendly with, that was an artist who did so much for the community. And then I thought, it doesn't matter what his backstory is, this just shouldn't happen to anyone, period. And Raverro did not want to go to the police. He didn't want to file a report because he didn't think anyone would believe him. But some artists and some activists and some friends convinced him otherwise, and so he did, and 2 detectives took up the case. And they took it pretty seriously, actually. They found all of the security guards and interviewed them. And of course, they lied and collaborated on their story. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. But the video footage that night at Union Station told a different story. It showed Raverro standing there, surrounded, being harassed. It showed Raverro walking to the bathroom with a guard walking behind him, slipping on a black glove with metal spikes right on the knuckles. Metal spikes. Seriously, this guy was looking to do harm. And so they hooked him up with a civil rights attorney named Qsar Mohammed Bai. Raverro calls him Q, and he did a lot of good. And the guards, they eventually started talking, and one of them gave evidence and testimony against the other, and the one that beat Raverro up so badly, he went to jail. Have you seen the photos of Raverro? His eye is swollen shut, and his head is ravaged by that guy. That guy ravaged his head. And for what? For nothing, for him sitting there in a public place waiting for public transit. They profiled him for being homeless. That's their excuse, so they can harass someone and tell them to move along. But actually, he was coming from like a really fancy schmancy Red Line Arts Gallery event. It could have been any one of us, any one of those artists that attended that night, sitting there waiting for that train. But I can guarantee you that my white body would not have been harassed, would not have been bullied into a bathroom and beaten to an inch of my life. And so, some of the guards get probation, some get sent to jail, and we think justice has been served. Things are free, things are clear, and Allied Security and RTD will take responsibility for their actions for hiring a racist team, a racist man, in their uniform on their dime. and they'd help Raverro pay for his medical bills. But no, that did not happen. They kept pointing fingers at each other. Well, it's not our responsibility. Well, we didn't train him to be this way. He's just one bad apple. Well, it just takes one bad apple to make you sick, and if you served up that bad apple, you should be taking responsibility for robbing someone of their livelihood, of their career. Because Raverro is not the same man. Brain injury is real. It's a really fucking big deal. And he doesn't feel inspiration or motivation to do his art anymore. And he feels afraid, and he has memory lapses, like long-term effects. He stops midway in most of his sentences, and he apologizes a lot. And he went to the doctors, and he got brain scans, and it's official. He has brain damage, and yet he has not been paid one dime for what is owed to him. He had a full-ride scholarship to Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, and yet he can't go back. And RTD has not taken responsibility for doing this to him. And it's been 2 years since the assault, and RTD still nothing for hiring them, for making it happen. They're just not doing one thing. And I have listened to RTD's meetings, their board meetings. I've listened, and they say things like, our top priority is the safety of our writers. We are in the public safety and transportation industry. Well, Raverro is your responsibility. He is your constituent. He is your writer. Why don't they see that? Why don't they do the right thing? They say they are public servants. Well, Raverro is your public. He is part of the community, and he is part of us.
I just sat down and put on my headphones, and I was just gonna wait for the next train.
Raverro Stinnett of Denver was assaulted by a security guard at Union Station in April of 2018.
Took out my headphones, and they was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just waiting for the train." And he was like, "Well, you can't wait here."
This pattern continued, with Stinnett moving and the guards following, telling him he had to leave.
There's people here. How come I can't just wait with them? It was like, well, you can go back to the bathroom.
The security guards followed him. 2 waited outside while the other 2 went in, and Stinnett says yelled for everyone who was in the bathroom at the time to get out. The security guards involved in the attack were subcontractors hired by RTD.
And then as soon as I turned around, I looked down, and dude is putting on gloves with little studs on them, and I'm like, "What are you doing with them?" And as soon as I said that, he punched me, and I don't remember anything else after that. It must have hit me hard because I got a scar here, scar on my nose. All this was busted up. My teeth were jacked because I was pretty. He didn't just hit me one time, and then I have all this damage.
The guard who beat Stinnett up, James Hunter, pleaded guilty and received a prison sentence. 2 other guards also pleaded guilty and got probation.
You know, it was just premeditated violence and racial profiling. They knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't the first time they'd done something like this. They knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't the first time they'd done something like this.
People need to get angry and do something because things need to change. Because it seems like every time I try to paint, I just bust out in tears.
Permanent brain injury that is visible from scans.
I just bust out in tears.
What happened to Raverro by way of Allied security is deplorable.
Provide compensation to Raverro Stinnett.
The violent, racist attack on Raverro.
Provide compensation to Raverro Stinnett.
To account for his livelihood being taken in such a violent way.
Provide compensation to Raverro Stinnett.
Good evening, everyone. We have quite a crowd with us here this evening. Well, on the phones, anyway. And eventually we'll let you all speak. It's going to take a while to get through everyone, so when it's your turn, keep it short. I will be cutting you off at 3 minutes. It's not my fault. I would listen to you speak all night if I could, but we do need to run this like a business, don't we? Okay then, the RTD Operations and Customer Service Committee will now come to order. Okay, here we go. As you know, at RTD, safety is our core value, so we will be doing a safety briefing, as we usually do. What? Yes, and customer service. Customer service is also a core value. You can't have one without the other, now can you? All right, now to the business before us. First, before we jump into the first agenda item, I would like to take a moment to address all the ruckus, all the phone calls, the emails, the things in the press, on the radio. I mean, I don't understand where this is coming from. What are the tactics being used here, and by whom? The situation with Mr. Stinnett happened almost 2 years ago. It was a horrible incident, and the man who did it went to prison. That's it. Justice was served. So I don't understand why this is coming up now. Why is all this being stirred up now? I'd like to know. Yes, I'm going to read the statement now. RTD is sensitive to the concerns our society has regarding policing. The Stinnett case was an isolated event of criminal activity that does not align with RTD's core values, nor does it reflect our attitude, mission, policies, or practices. As horrible as this incident was, this is about individuals' bad behavior, and those individuals are suffering the consequences. Additionally, we are working with community members on the agency's code of conduct to ensure it strikes the right balance in requiring appropriate behavior on RTD's system while respecting people's rights. While respecting people's rights. Okay, enough said. The next item on the agenda is a resolution brought to us by Director Chantel Lewis, who recommends action for prioritizing alternative safety measures. So basically what this says is that we need to get rid of our security forces, and the $27.3 million saved should be moved to mental health, social support, medical professionals, homeless outreach workers, et cetera, instead. Set up a committee, a working class of citizens, to look through all of it, right? A citizens committee. Well, I have numerous issues with the resolution itself and the manner in which it comes to us. Also, the way that support has been garnered. I mean, really, all of the phone calls. We get it, okay? It's enough. One of us has been taking these issues to the media before we've had a chance to discuss them ourselves, and I don't appreciate it. I mean, really, I find this resolution vague, ambiguous, internally inconsistent, and frankly, poorly written. I wish the media would report on that. I mean, they know something about poorly written, don't they? Now, this resolution has a $27.3 million fiscal note, and I don't know what's supposed to happen to that money. And after hearing Director Lewis explain, apparently she doesn't know either. So we are supposed to just set aside $27.3 million and allow the citizens to determine where it goes. Sounds like a slush fund to me. I believe that this is coming from the defund the police movement. Now, my constituents are strongly opposed to this. By the way, RTD is not the police. We are not social workers. We move people, period. We take them from here to there. We move people. I think our PR ladies came up with that slogan. It's very catchy. Now, I didn't bother to speak to Director Lewis in advance, but this resolution is, it's very rough format. I mean, I don't even know what she's trying to accomplish with this resolution, and instead of building consensus with the board, now we're being inundated with phone calls and emails. I mean, we get it, enough already. I don't even know what her intentions are, and frankly, the document is so confusing, I probably would never understand. Now, I also have gotten some other rather emotional emails from customers who are concerned for their safety at the stations. Now, what? Well, yes, Mr. Stinnett was a customer, I suppose, I believe. I guess he wasn't homeless, but they may have thought he was. And we have many homeless and threatening people at the stations. That is not racism. That's reality. That's what I'm saying anyway. We need security. And in fact, we probably need it more now than ever, with all the riots, all the uptick in violence. Now, excuse me, Director Lewis, this is not your turn to comment here. Please, Director Lewis, it's not your turn to speak. You went first. It is our turn to comment. You wrote this document. You called your little friends, okay? It's not okay for you to speak. Now, I'm going to go around the room, and I understand that that's difficult for you to keep up with, but you, of all the people in this room, should understand that it is important for everyone to have an equal say. Now, I'm going to go around to all the directors, including myself, and when we're done here, I'll allow you a chance to speak. And then we have to get to all the callers, so it's going to be a long night. The main issue here is who's going to protect our drivers and our riders if we get rid of Allied security. What? Well, yes, Mr. Stinnett intended to be a rider, but he didn't quite make it on the train that night, so he wasn't technically a rider, now was he? Anyway, we move people. We are not mental health counselors. That is beyond our scope, regardless. Just like responsibility for this horrible incident is beyond our responsibility. We hired a contractor. They did bad stuff. Now, we cannot be held liable for the actions of a few bad apples. I mean, we have a budget problem to fix here. It's not like we can just hand over money to every person who twists their ankle getting off the bus, now can we? Like I said, we've had a lot of comment from the board, and we need to get to the phones and let the callers talk. So we should probably talk about this some other time, preferably in another forum. In fact, I highly recommend another forum. Of course, this is a very important issue, and we take it very seriously at RTD. Safety is our top priority. Safety and transportation.
One has to wonder if this is just a typical graveyard shift in a place like Union Station. In the early hours of April 20th, 2018, 4 security officers approached Raverro Stinnett, a black man, for no other reason than a confrontation. Not because he was there longer than 2 hours, the maximum time to wait for a train. Not because he was asleep, he was awake. One has to wonder if Officer Diaz, one of the 4 officers in the incident, was telling the truth when he said that this wasn't the first time that they saw things being swept under the rug, or that in the past they've been told to target individuals that appear homeless to them. When none of the 4 officers, including Taylor Taggart, the supervisor on duty that night, left the entire incident off their activity logs. No incident reports were filed. No ambulance was called. Was Officer Diaz being sincere when he said, "It's not like it is anything out of the ordinary. We try to protect ourselves. We try to protect each other"? Is this how private companies shoulder the responsibility and authority of law enforcement? Did the city intentionally relinquish liability of the safety of vulnerable citizens as a way to deal with loitering in their brand new, beautiful living room? And are we sacrificing the safety of one group of citizens for the other? And if so, why?
Yep, April 20th, that morning. I'll never forget. It was Hitler's birthday. That's what we do every year to celebrate. We look for some fucking nigger to kick the shit out of. We've been doing that for years. That's how we celebrate. We had a plan that morning. Taggart had my back, so did Diaz. He's Spanish, not Mexican, so he's cool. He don't like niggers either. He might might have some Mexicans in his family. I don't know. I don't care. You know, Fugeri, he was a snitch bitch, and I could tell all along. I could tell he'd crack if we got caught. If he had just kept his mouth shut, we would have got away with it. I could tell he'd crack. But it was the anniversary of the birth of the Fuhrer, so we had to do it. We must secure an existence for our people and a future for white children. These liberal cucks want open borders. They want to take away our guns. Fucking child-molested cannibals. They want welfare and social programs for these fucking lazy perverts and drug addicts. Criminals coming across our borders. At least Trump is standing up to that shit. Finally, a fucking president with some fucking balls kicking those communist pieces of shit out of our country. These people all need to be corralled up and put into a warehouse and killed. Once and for all. Exterminated. That's what's wrong with this country. We give and we give and we let anyone come in. We don't even know where they come from. These idiots are going to wake up one day and we'll be living under Sharia law. All the true American values are being destroyed. These Jews and niggers want to take over our government. America was born as a white man's country. And these communists want to change that? That is white genocide. These fucking lazy drug addicts want to come here to Union Station and hang out all night and day? Half of them choose to be homeless. Except for the veterans. I respect them. But you can't be lazy and use PTSD, whatever, as an excuse. I'm not a racist. If you're a black or a Mexican and you got a job and are respectful to the flag and you go to church like you're supposed to and you shut up about race, oh, I'm a minority, I'm so oppressed. Shut up and move on with your life. Get a job. Or your job is protesting? Get over yourself. It's these welfare lowlifes who live off of our government that I hate. Trash. Disrespectful pieces of shit. Go back to your shithole country if you hate it here so much. You're lucky to be in America. If it's so bad, why is everyone trying to come here? If you are so unhappy, leave. I knew Fugeri was going to be a snitch. He acted scared that night. What a fucking pussy. We had a plan. We were going to look after each other, but he was a punk and I could tell. There's always one. Wannabe nigger, pants sagging, fake gang-banger idiot. You're a sellout to your own race. The white man is going to prevail. We are going to rise up and finally kill all of these niggers and wetbacks once and for all. If they don't want to assimilate or be a part of the society that the white man built for them, then they can all die. The white man can't even protect himself anymore. But we're going to wake up, finally. Hitler was fucking right. And now, it's only a matter of time before the Civil War. And I, for one, I can't wait.
At RTD, safety is our core value. Safety is our core value. Please do not anticipate that the board will respond to questions and comments at this time. At RTD, safety is our core value. Please do not anticipate that the board will respond to questions and comments at this time.
You are supposed to represent the people and respond to the people.
Please do not anticipate that the board will respond to questions and comments at this time. At RTD, safety is our core value. Safety is our core value.
You are supposed to represent the people and respond to
safety is our core value. 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 Please do not anticipate that the board will respond to questions and comments at this time.
In 2019, an Allied Universal Security Guard made headlines when he was caught planning an attack on a synagogue in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was caught with materials used to make bombs and was found to have multiple contacts with white supremacist extremists. Also last year, New York City renewed their $284 million contract with Allied-owned FJC Security despite multiple lawsuits against them, including an involvement in an arrest when a 1-year-old was ripped from a 23-year-old mother's arms. In Los Angeles, LaWanna Powers, a former employee of Allied Universal Security Services, was fired for reporting racist text messages to her supervisor. In Ross Township in Pennsylvania, an Allied security guard stopped a black Louis Vuitton security guard on his way to work, insisting he remove his uniform, and then made him call the store manager to verify he worked there, and was still followed the whole way and greeted by police when he arrived to work, just to verify that he had a job. Are incidents like this all over the country under the same company a coincidence, or just a few bad apples? Why does this company have so many incidents of this kind? If it were any other group on Earth who consistently had incidents harassing, assaulting, brutalizing particular groups of people, would it be excused as bad apples or a pathology?
Google Allied Security Assault. Allied Security Assault. Hundreds of assaults.
Allied security guards pleading guilty.
Your private security guards, they were instructed to do this. They were instructed to do this. Your private security guard, what is their purpose? What is their purpose?
In Colorado, in 2017, an Allied security guard kills
July
a man
2nd,
at a light rail station.
Allied security guards
In
at the Golden
California,
One Center
in
in Sacramento,
2018,
California,
an Allied
knelt
security
on
guard
a man's
and
neck
a
for more than
conductor
4
are
minutes and then
removed
restrained him
after
face down for
accusations
20
of
minutes.
racist
Former airport
The man was
security
taken to a
employee
nearby
for
hospital
In
Allied
Minnesota,
pronounced
in
dead
Security Services
2019,
recently filed
an
a
Allied
lawsuit
security
against
officer
companies and
in
several of its
June of
employees.
2016.
The complaint
Two
filed in
Allied
February
armies
20,
in
2020,
2019,
an
a man
Allied
attacked
security
a
guard at the
security
Chicago
guard
area
after
school
helping a person
slammed a
leave.
kindergarten student on a table and then choked him with both hands.
Google Allied Security Assault. Hundreds of assaults.
Allied security guards pleading guilty.
Your private security guard, they were instructed to do this.
Racial bias and profiling within RTD.
What is their purpose?
In May of
In
2019,
New York, in 2018,
an Allied security guard at a mall in
Four
Fort
homeless
Worth,
people who say they were
Texas,
assaulted by
fired
guards at
after
Fort Station
assaulting
last
and
year
pepper
sued
spraying
a former guard
pregnant
and the
women.
security company he works for. Allied Universal and Allied and several of its supervisors negligently maintained a racially violent, sexually hostile
in
environment.
California,
Security video
in
of RTD guards complained about showed an Allied repeatedly refused to engage in homeless man, Michael Hathaway, into a door and smashing the man's cane across his face.
Google Allied Security Assault.
Allied security guards pleading guilty.
Your private security guard.
Racial bias.
They were instructed to do this.
We want Allied Universal Securities out of RTD. End the contract with Allied Universal Security.
Dissolve the contract with Allied.
Fire Allied Security.
Why won't you even discuss terminating the Allied Security?
We want Allied Universal Security
I fail to understand why the general manager was able to bypass the board to renew the contract with Allied Universal
I would
Security.
also like an explanation as to how one person is able to sign away $40 million. Why contract was allow another contract?
I fail to understand why the general manager.
We want Allied Universal. Why Allied Universal would allow out of contract with Allied while resigning away $90 million.
So what I don't understand as elected officials, how could you possibly have renewed this contract? Aren't you now bad apples? As elected officials, aren't you now bad apples?
Whereas the Regional Transportation District, RTD, was created in 1969 by the Colorado General Assembly to promote the public health, safety, convenience, economy, and welfare of residents of the district and of the state of Colorado. And whereas RTD's mission is to meet constituents' present and future public transit needs by offering safe, clean, reliable, courteous, accessible, and cost-effective service throughout the district. And whereas RTD's constituency includes the general public, transit riders, and the taxpayers. And whereas RTD's Civil Rights Division's core objectives are to provide our passengers, employees, business partners, contractors, and communities with equal opportunity and access to public transit services. And whereas the Civil Rights Division has a commitment to promoting fairness, excellence, and professional integrity throughout all of its initiatives. And whereas RTD acknowledges the historical trauma and harm that Black communities have experienced at the hands of police and security personnel. And whereas Black and Indigenous communities, communities of color, low-income communities, unhoused communities, and our most marginalized and most vulnerable communities depend on the RTD for their transit needs. And whereas transit security officers, allied transit security, and secondary employment police officers are, as often as possible, be accompanied by crisis intervention teams trained to respond to mental, behavioral, and social challenges. And whereas Black Lives Matter. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the RTD Board of Directors directs RTD's general manager to appropriate $30 million to invest in the expansion of mental, behavioral, and social support professionals, such as social workers, medical professionals, homeless outreach workers, transit ambassadors, and any other additional support identified to respond to constituent interactions. And be it further resolved that the board and the general manager terminate the Allied Security contract no later than December 31st, 2020, and allocate the funds previously used towards accomplishing the objectives set forth in this resolution, such as requiring the use of crisis intervention teams trained to respond to mental, behavioral, and social challenges.
Speak with my hands. I used to DJ back in the day. I love hip hop, rhymes, beats, come together to make something new, make you feel something, a mood, a memory, an emotion, something that wasn't there before. I love it when a painting does this with colors, shapes, shadows, or a photograph with its light, symmetry, contrast. They layer. The way art speaks to us, I always related to that as a kid. I mean, with 7 brothers and sisters, you learn to speak in other ways. I was quiet for the most part, but I like to create something with my hands that could show you where I was coming from. Making beats is just like language, right? I love technology. The things you can do with the imagination and how the music can sometimes inspire the words in the song that maybe wasn't there before. But in that moment, an idea sparks and bam! Something brand new comes from that. A new word, new slang, new way of, doing things, whatever. Music can do that. Photography can do that. Art can do that. Montbello is a great community. A lot of great artists come from there. Real legends, man. You know Big John? Come on now. Everybody knows Big John. He's the legend. I was younger, watching them DJ. I remember that. I found myself over at Big John's house and Mixmaster Ice from UTFO was there, scratching. He was bad, hands quick. He spoke with his hands. That's how DJs do it. He was the best back then, and everybody remembers Roxanne. Remember, he left the room and I went around the table, jumped on his turntables. I was just a kid, curious. I was trying to scratch. I could not do it. It's hard, man. Remember, he came back in the room and he was like, yo, little dude, what you doing on my records, man? Hey, you gonna mess up my records, man. Then he started teaching me, step by step, how to do it. Mixmaster Ice taught me how to scratch. Yeah, that's what it's like living in Montbello. I guess I got into the wrong crowd at some point. I don't know. In and out of trouble. I was basically homeless for a little bit, back and forth between Denver and Seattle. Seattle's a totally different place, whole different vibe with a different culture. Altitude, the rainforest. Yeah, it rains for real, for real. I learned a lot. Making beats, DJing. I stopped painting for a while. I was moving around so much, I didn't really have nowhere to paint or to put my stuff or to take it with me. Losing your paints, your brushes, canvases, boards, whatever is sort of like losing your words or your way of speaking or expressing yourself if you're someone like me. So it was dope when I got settled down in Colorado Springs. Yeah, I started DJing for a club, and I actually was coming back and forth to Denver once in a while, mixing, scratching, making records on a DJ turntable, mixing paints on a canvas. Yeah. I had started painting again, so that was dope, Things were finally starting to change for me. I got that scholarship to Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. I was meeting people, collaborating, selling my art, working closely with Redline. My life had changed. It was crazy. I had gone from battling my siblings to battling problems within my neighborhood, to battling homelessness, despair, questioning whether or not I was even going to get out of all that. But I get out of all of it when all those battles, when the battle to be recognized for my artwork, for my mind, to overcome those battles of judgment, just to be here to face this battle right now. The battle that my life has value. The battle that my quality of life will never be the same. Not because of any choice I made, not because of any bad decision on my part, not because I violated laws or violated people. No, I'm fighting this battle because I was there. Plain and simple. That morning, James Hunter spoke with his hands. The other officers, when filing out their incident reports and activities logs, they spoke with their hands. When they falsified the accounts of what happened that evening, they spoke with their hands. And when RTD renewed their contract, giving them another $40 million, they signed that contract a year after they knew what happened to me. They spoke with their hands, loud and clear. I want to see what people do. Will they cast a vote? Will they vote with their dollars? Who you hand your money to is speaking with your hands, right? Will they tear up that ticket and hop on that train? They could be next. Anyone could be next. But no, y'all think it happened to me because of something I did when I was just waiting for my train. So don't think it can't happen to you. You going to speak with your hands? What will you say?
I am Raverro. 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 I am Raverro.